Last year we did a comparison between the Apple iPhone X and the Redmi Note 5 Pro. The Note 5 Pro performed surprisingly well and even outdid the iPhone in quite a few scenarios. This time around we thought of repeating the test with what seems to be an even stronger camera phone from Xiaomi, but with the top of the line flagship from Android camp, the Galaxy S10 Plus. This is Sandeep from Revetless. Let's take a look at the camera comparison. The Redmi Note 7 Pro has a 48MP half-inch Sony IMX586 sensor with f1.79 aperture and 0.8 micron pixel size, as well as a 5MP f2.4 depth sensor. The Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus on the other hand is a 12MP camera with 1x2.55-inch sensor, 1.4 micron pixel size, optical image stabilization, dual pixel autofocus, as well as dual aperture that allows you to change the aperture between f1.5 and f2.4. You also get a secondary telephoto 12MP camera with f2.4 aperture, 1x3.6-inch sensor size, 1 micron pixel size, and optical image stabilization. Last but not the least is a 16MP f2.2 camera with 1 micron pixel size that gives an ultra-wide field of view. The Note 7 Pro has 0.8 micron pixel size by default, but the quad bare array combines information from 4 different pixels into one, thus giving 1.6 micron pixel size effectively. Thus it captures in 12MP resolution by default with pixel binning, but you can capture in 48MP mode as well. The S10 Plus tends to produce warmer looking shots most of the time, while the Note 7 Pro is more natural. The Note 7 Pro also has a more neutral color palette, while the S10 Plus is more saturated. However, it seems like people do like the more saturated effect, as you can see from a little poll that we conducted here. Phone A in this case was Note 7 Pro, while phone B was the S10 Plus. You'll notice that the difference in saturation is there, especially in the clouds. I agree that the S10 Plus shot looks more pleasing, but there are a few things that social media samples won't be able to show you. First is detailing. There's much better sharpness and detailing on the Note 7 Pro shots compared to the S10 Plus photos. The files are also much bigger on the Note 7 Pro compared to the S10 Plus, and the difference in sharpness and detail increases a bit more if you compare the 48MP images from the Note 7 Pro. Secondly, there's a bit of noise reduction happening in both the photos, but the S10 Plus has too much of it and it looks like the buildings have been laminated. However, the S10 Plus does have an advantage in the form of the telephoto camera, which allows you to get closer to the subject or object, and in fact does help in terms of sharpness as well if you're zooming in, considering that this is optical zoom compared to a digital zoom that the Note 7 Pro has. You can also go for the ultra wide camera in order to get a more dramatic field of view and get a more dramatic looking shot. Next, let's look at these two photos, which again we did a poll on. Here too people prefer the warmer tone of the S10 Plus, but also they would have picked it because the exposure was correct. The Note 7 Pro shot was underexposed and isn't as impressive. Here phone A was the S10 Plus and phone B was the Note 7 Pro. S10 Plus is also much faster at focusing thanks to dual pixel autofocus and is almost always in focus without you needing to tap to focus. The S10 Plus has a dual aperture primary camera, which actually does create a big difference when it comes to the amount of light that comes in as well as the depth of field. The f1.5 option is much shallower than the f2.4 mode in terms of depth of field, and it looks like the difference between aperture mode turned on and off. Of course, if you get fairly close to a subject or object, then the difference is minimized due to the forced perspective, but it's still visible. The different apertures are selectable only in Pro mode. Otherwise, the phone itself chooses which aperture to use based on the situation. A bright and sunny day will most likely result in the phone choosing f2.4, while a dark situation would open it to f1.5. Discussing about depth of field further, let's talk about the portrait mode, which is also known as live focus mode on the S10 Plus. Earlier Samsung phones relied on the telephoto sensor to capture portrait shots, but we are pleased to say that that is no longer the case. While it doesn't create as pronounced an effect or a narrow perspective like the telephoto lens, it does allow for much better portraits, especially when the light is low, since it uses the primary sensor, which can go up to f1.5 instead of f2.4 of the telephoto sensor. Let's look at these images of the Mojito, which we posted again for a poll. Phone A on the left was S10 Plus, while phone B on the right was Note 7 Pro. You'll notice that the Note 7 Pro has better dynamic range as the leaves in the background are more visible, and so is the drink. The details on the mug are also much more visible and sharper. Finally, the blurring too is handled better on the Note 7 Pro, especially when you look at a difficult portion such as around the mint leaves. We also posted this final portrait set on social media, and here phone A was Redmi Note 7 Pro and phone B was S10 Plus. Here the warmer tones on the S10 Plus went a bit overboard and resulted in something that's less pleasing than the Note 7 Pro. But the S10 Plus portrait shot again has lesser detail and sharpness as well as worse edge detection. The same observations can also be found in low light using portrait mode, but noise is lower on the S10 Plus shot. Speaking of low light, we were interested to see how the larger aperture on the S10 Plus along with a more powerful image processor fared against a larger sensor with pixel binning. In terms of low light performance, the S10 Plus manages to capture a well exposed shot with faster shutter speed but less detail and sharpness. The noise is lower though, and the Note 7 Pro shots have more noise but with better detail and sharpness. In really low light situations, using night mode on both reveals similar traits but more exaggerated. The Note 7 Pro increases noise much further while the S10 Plus loses out on more detail but still keeps noise under control. We also tested phones using manual settings in Pro mode, and due to a larger aperture, the S10 Plus required a shorter shutter speed, but the image is much softer compared to the Note 7 Pro. So if you have a stable surface or tripod, using manual settings in Pro mode yields better results on the Note 7 Pro, and that's expected considering the larger sensor and higher pixel count. Of course, if you set the ISO levels very high, then the S10 Plus will win since the image processor is more powerful, but otherwise the Note 7 Pro does take the lead. In terms of front-facing camera, you get a 13MP f2 camera on the Note 7 Pro, while you get a 10MP f1.9 sensor with 1.22 micron pixel size and dual pixel autofocus on the S10 Plus, along with a secondary 8MP f2.2 depth sensor with similar 1.12 micron pixel size. In well-lit conditions, both the phones take similar selfies, but there is an advantage on the S10 Plus in terms of dynamic range, while details and sharpness is much better on the Note 7 Pro. The facial features on the S10 Plus photos kind of become softer due to the noise reduction algorithm being applied. When it comes to low-light situations, the S10 Plus selfies look really bad and almost mushy-like, considering that it loses out on most of details due to noise reduction. In terms of portrait mode, both the phones are similar, but the Note 7 Pro is slightly better, especially when it comes to detailing, sharpness, as well as edge detection. Video recording is where you see a huge difference between these two smartphones. 4K video recording is possible on both the phones, but the S10 Plus gives you 4K 60fps option without EIS, as well as 4K 30fps with EIS, while the Note 7 Pro can do 4K 30fps only without EIS. If you need EIS, you have to go for 1080p 30fps option on the Note 7 Pro. There is 1080p 60fps too on the Note 7 Pro, but it isn't stabilized like the 1080p 60fps with EIS on the S10 Plus. And apart from the frame rates and stabilization differences, there's also a big difference in terms of color, the dynamic range and bitrate, as well as detailing in each of the same video modes. The S10 Plus is much better in all these aspects. You can also record 4K with any of the three cameras and even switch between them while recording on the S10 Plus. In fact, the front-facing camera video too is much better on the S10 Plus, especially since you can capture 4K videos too, while the Note 7 Pro is restricted to 1080p. The audio is also much better on the S10 Plus. This is a front-facing camera on the Redmi Note 7 Pro, capturing 1080p 30fps video with the front-facing camera. Let me know what you guys think about the overall sharpness, the image quality, my voice, and the stabilization in this particular mode. This is the full HD video mode with the front-facing camera on the Galaxy S10 Plus. Let me know how it is compared to the 4K mode as well as the 1080p mode on the Redmi Note 7 Pro. This is the front-facing camera on the Galaxy S10 Plus, capturing 4K video at 30fps. Let me know what you guys think about the overall sharpness, the dynamic range, the detailing, and how well it's picking my voice as well as the stabilization in this mode. In terms of slow motion video, the Note 7 Pro maxes out at 120fps and you can capture it either 720p or 1080p. S10 Plus on the other hand gives you 240fps at 1080p or 960fps at 720p. The Galaxy S10 is definitely the more versatile camera phone. Having different focal lengths will allow for better capture ability based on the situations you encounter and frames that are needed to be captured. The video quality as well is too far ahead for the Note 7 Pro to even think of coming close to. However, if you're talking about pure photography terms with the primary camera, the Note 7 Pro is really strong and puts up a much stronger fight than what its price tag might suggest that it can achieve. While anyone considering either of the phones won't consider the other one as a purchase option, it's still good to see that the affordable phones are getting better and better. Please do hit the subscribe button if you like this video. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.